Can you remember the last day in which you didn't have a drink? That is the opening line of George W. Bush's autobiography. Coming in the mail in the next few days is George Bush's autobiography. He wrote it not too long after leaving the presidency. He said the morning after no longer being president, he woke up and he was bored and he started writing. The name of the book is called Decision Points. And from the way I watched videos about it last night, and from the way he described it, and the way it sounds so far, it seems like the book is going to be about explaining why he made certain decisions while he was president. You see, I couldn't wait for my book to arrive in the mail. I had to start it now. So I got on audible.com and I got a free trial and downloaded the audio book of it. And it has George Bush himself narrating it. And I've listened to the first chapter. I'm getting ready to listen to another. Very interesting so far. You see, the way he described the book in the video just sounded so interesting. And he was a good storyteller, and I figure if he can write the same way he tells stories, the book should be very good. And he's very funny. I've been watching a lot of George Bush lately. He was a very funny guy. And to tell you the truth, I never thought I'd say this. If I had these viewpoints that I have now, and I was alive, well, of course I was alive back then, but if I was this age back then and I had the viewpoints that I have now, and he first ran for president the very first time, before the war in Iraq and 9/11, remember, that came after, I would have probably supported him the first time he ran for president. I've been watching him in the debates. He was an absolutely great debater. He kicked Gore's ass. I agreed with every single thing he said in the debates. And yeah, I think I would have supported George W. Bush. But, and you have no idea how much it pains me to say that. I hated him as a teenager so much. And, I was younger than a teenager too. God, I was 9 years old when 9/11 happened and he first became president. I was 9 when he first became president. But he made so many stupid decisions while he was president. That's why I thought a book of him explaining why he made these decisions might be interesting, might give me a whole new viewpoint on all of it. It'll be great to get his point of view of everything that went down. Enough time has passed now, for me personally at least, to where I can look back at his presidency without the anger I felt back in the day because I was so against the war. And I can kind of give his presidency another look. And that's what I want to do while reading this book. You see, it started because like I said, I liked him at the debates. He's a funny guy. I've been watching his old press conferences. He seems like a relatable human being. That's why it makes me so sad now to think, like, why wasn't he a more successful president? Why did he suck so bad? But since I've come to the conclusion that he was a funny person, he was a relatable human being, I liked his viewpoints, I now want to figure out, was George W. Bush actually just an all-around stupid bad person, or was he just a bad president? That's what I want to figure out. Because I don't know nothing about him personally, as a person. I only know I was very against the war. And everything he did over the Middle East, I was very against it. And I still am. He shouldn't have done. I'm thinking he really should have done that. I mean, I'm sure the world is better off without Saddam Hussein. But I want to give his presidency another look. So that's what I intend to do. It sounds like the book covers his entire presidency. I can't wait to get to 9/11 and all of that. I hope my book gets here soon because, yeah, I'm listening to the Audible version of it, but it's just not the same. When you're reading something and you can actually take it in, it's a whole different story. But I think this is going to be really interesting, and I'm sure I'll be making update videos about this as I start forming new opinions and new thoughts on former President George W. Bush. I have a lot of questions about George W. Bush as well. He was in the correct party. My party. He was our last Republican president. And since I agreed with all his views, we are in the same political party. He was a relatable, likable person. Why was he such a bad president? Where did he go wrong? Why was he such a failure? And why is it that pretty much everything he did failed? He wasn't able. Everything he was pushing pretty much was nothing. It came to nothing. It was just they were all failures. And I want to know why. I guess it's kind of a question, as I didn't know I was a Republican back then, but why did my party fail me? Why did my party fail the country? And that's one of the questions that I hope to answer in reading this book. Something I've been thinking a whole lot about. And you know, there's just another thing about George W. Bush as well is that, I don't know, man, just watching all these old videos of him, his press conferences, State of the Union addresses, talking about 9/11. This makes me feel very nostalgic. Takes me back to a simpler time. Things were slower. Things were easier. All you had to do was hate the president. That's it. I hated George W. Bush. I was against everything he was doing. And I had so much hate for that president. It's just funny. So, I spent a lot of time, because I've always been a very opinionated person about political things, I guess you would say, even back then, because I had very strong opinions about the Iraq and Afghanistan wars and all that. And, you know, so I spent a lot of time thinking about George W. Bush back in the day, hating him, just despising that motherfucker. I remember when he ran for re-election, I thought there's no way he would ever possibly win. No way. So, yeah, when I read about him, it just takes me back to a much simpler, slower, more respectable time. Things just weren't so ugly. Our politicians weren't so hateful to each other. They could disagree about something without having to destroy one another, you know what I'm saying? Personally. And that's really the way it should be. We should be able to do things in a respectable manner without just having to attack each other's character, you know. It's unfortunate that this is where it's come to, and nobody can work together to just do things in a civil manner. It's unfortunate. So yeah, I feel very nostalgic. I watch his news conferences on C-SPAN, and I watch his State of the Union addresses on YouTube, and I just think, man, that was forever ago. So long. I was so young. I was such a kid. I was a kid. I was very young. And it takes me back to the way I felt back then. And enough time has passed now to where I can look at the whole situation without the anger I felt back then. And it kind of makes me laugh that I was just so upset about it. I mean, it was a horrible situation. A war was going on at the time. And he was a very incompetent president. Yeah. I watched those old videos, and it just takes me right back to those old days. That's what really made me want to read this book. I want to understand the man that I despised and hated so much. I want to understand his presidency, why he did everything he did, the tough decisions that he had to make. Why did he make them? And were they the right call? Was everything he did necessary? Could it have been avoided? I want to figure this stuff out. I mean, the media lies so much, and especially apparently against Republican, presidents. And of course, the media was very against him back in the day. So was all that anger I felt justified, or was I playing into what was going on in the media? Enough time has passed now to where I can really look at it with an open mind. I mean, regardless, he was still a piece of shit president, but did he really deserve as much anger? That's what I want to figure out. I'm very curious to find this out. Plus, like I said, the whole thing's just a huge, gigantic, nostalgic fucking trip. So, I just read another chapter, and these videos of them, these are actually, this is a separate video from the one I made. I've just kind of edited it all together, but I just read another chapter about how he won Florida, the decision about how the Supreme Court decided who won the election. You know, it was very controversial. It's a very interesting book, and I think I'm going to stop listening to the audio altogether, because I want to be able to really soak this in. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, because I want to know the knowledge that's in the book, but I don't want to have to wait until the fucking book itself gets here. But you can take in so much more information when you're actually reading something. It's so much more meaningful. It's just so different than having it read to you. You know, it's just totally not the same thing. Just not one of those decisions that you have to live with and make, you know. Pun intended.